That's the reason why a lot of you are here. We've had in our last two select board meetings public input from Mr. Ubaldo, who spoke very, I'd say passionately about asking the select board to approach Casella to see if we can negotiate keeping the landfill open longer. And correct me if I get any of this wrong, Richard. Keeping the landfill open longer, delaying the closing of the landfill, and by his own admission in those conversations, there's a lot of things that would have to fall into place, not just our thoughts on it. But he still thinks it's important that the select board reach out. And my take was that I am sure that that is not just Richard Ubaldo's opinion. I have a feeling that there's a number of people that feel the same way. And because of that, I felt that we should at least discuss. So my goal tonight is to see if the select board wants to put up a warrant article that gives us the ability to go back to Casella and negotiate, because it should go to a town vote. And that's what you've asked us to consider. Do I have that right?
Yeah, but we may be, Richard Ubaldo, Main Street, we may be putting the cart before the horse in this instant. I don't know if Casella actually has an interest. I'm assuming they do, and from the conversations, it seems like they do. So you're asking to put a warrant article on to start negotiating, and they may not be able. Also, there's the state process that they have to go through. That may be a barrier. There seems to be a lot of barriers, and I think possibly the first one is, and I know the board has to reach out to Casella, or I believe the board has to reach out to Casella to initiate that, because I don't think they are allowed to from the last lawsuit. From the agreement. So in that case, it would be more a vote on saying, are we willing to at least send Casella a letter formally saying, hey, would this be a possibility, to see where it goes? Then then stepping further into it would be something. I'm sure they know a little better than we do whether if the state's willing to permit or look at the permits for them. So I don't know, going directly to a warrant article is where you want to go just yet. And I could be wrong about that. You'll have to ask your people, or, even that, but maybe the board could take a vote to say, hey, we're going to reach out and say that this is something we may be interested in. And that way that opens their door to say, okay, this is what we can talk about. We do know that zoning law has to be changed. A lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts, like you said. But I think it's that very just initial first step, so they can at least open the door, because we have to open the door first. The town has to open the door first. Because we may have
the reason I said warrant article is I don't think it's fair for 5 people on a select board to open that door without the town voting to say that's a good idea.
Okay.
And so in my opinion, and I'll see how everybody else feels, I just feel like we should, one of the things you said was, I think it should get another vote. And we talked about that briefly, how many votes do we need? But your stance, and always correct me if I'm wrong,
sure,
was that things have changed, and that with the closure coming up much sooner now rather than way off in the distance, that another vote is warranted. That's kind of what the take I got from you.
Yeah, in general, yeah.
Okay.
But and really, my initial take is because we don't know. I don't know if the state's willing to permit it. That may be a barrier that we run into, and the state says, no, you're not doing it.
Not even be up to us.
And so you're going to put a warrant article on saying we were going to negotiate with them, when we may have the state say, no, you're not, because we're not giving them another permit.
Well, the warrant article would have to specifically say if possible, or if I'm not sure.
It would be like every other warrant article that was ever, contingent on
Contingent on-
yes, or permitting.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, it would say things like
okay,
that.
so that's the board's decision on whether they want to do that. I obviously would say any step in that direction would be fine, just to find out more information. That's the real point of me coming to that and saying this stuff is, let's find out. We don't know, so we should find out. And that's why I say it's as simply as opening the door to them to say, okay, yeah, this is something we'd be interested in, and then we could move on before, because may put the warrant article out and they may say, no, we're not interested. I don't know. That's where you guys come in to open the door to them, because you guys have to open that door so they can also walk through it, you could say.
Do we want to talk about it first, or we want to listen to them?
Listen more input of them
We're gonna, this is, if we're going to take public comment on this issue, I think it might be a good idea to keep it, at least in the get-go, to Bethlehem residents. So if you have people on Zoom or in the room that are not Bethlehem residents, I'd ask you to hold off. Does anyone have a comment?
We are quite sure that the landfill is a time bomb. We knew that in the 1990s when we first started, we all projected it. Now there are test results. It's my understanding that there are test results that are showing PFAS and things going into the river. The reason you would have to open up, as Rich said, was because we have a binding agreement that was done in 2012 that promised that it would be the end of the landfill. There were people, we voted, and I'll give you guys a copy of this, but we voted in 87, 91, 92, 94, 97, 99, 2000, 2005. 2006, 2007, 2009, 2017, and 18. The town has voted against expansion. Some of them were petition warrant articles saying the select board should negotiate. The only one that ever got a yes vote was in 2012, when people sheepishly came up to me afterwards and said, I'm really sorry, I believed them. We were hoodwinked. We really believed that would be the end, that 10 more acres. They said the select board, and some of you might have seen my Facebook posts. Mike Culver promising, if they break this, all we have to do is go to the judge and the judge will take care of it. No more lawsuits. And people believe them. And then what happened in 2017 that they got the 6 more acres? Somehow, because they bought land that they promised they weren't going to ever buy more land. Well, it's for a gravel pit. Well, then if it's for a gravel pit, you shouldn't be asking ever again for expansion. I don't care if it's from a citizen or from them. They said no more. So I'm really disappointed that the board would even consider putting anything out, because you represent the town that has said no. I think I counted 12 times to them. They've lied to us. They've taken us to court. They sued us for a tax abatement, and then somehow they got that expansion. I know how, because we didn't want to spend more money. The town has been split apart by, I remember being accused of, I had my dog and Jeannie Robillard across the street because she lives on that street and I was walking, but I was accused of not passing people who were standing in front of me on the town hall, that we crossed the street to ignore them. No, we crossed the street because I have the dog that's a better side of the street for the dog and she lives on that. It was ridiculous. And do we really want to rip open those wounds? Forget about the pollution. I know you don't want John to talk, but he's publicized things that DES, I see it. They're way over capacity. They're way over what it's humongous. Of course, then I've got the personal note of smelling it and hearing it and stuff like that. But the river is gonna, there are people who get water. Woodsville gets water from the Ammonoosuc. We can't open this again, please. It's been said many times to the board, no more. You know, you open this door and why even open it? You know, you can easily say, we have agreements, period. If the board opens it, there are people going to think, oh, well, they must know something that we don't know. If it comes from residents, which it has before, it looks different than if it comes from the board. So I implore you, just don't do it. Here are just.
Thanks. Well, hold on. Okay.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
a list of all the different types.
Actually, no, yes.
Nancy, just to let you know, Cheryl Jensen has her hand up.
All right, Cheryl.
I believe I'm unmuted now.
You're unmuted.
I agree with everything that Andrea said. Some of you were not here during that whole time that Casella has just torn the town apart. And as she said, sued the town. We have an agreement. I do not think the board should open this up again. And I would be very careful if you think you want to do this and I'm sure you would do this anyway, but ask legal, because there could be some things in that agreement that, you know, that we aren't really familiar with or that we don't know would trip things up. But I would not, and someone who is pushing for this, I would not just take their word for the procedure that you should go through. Okay, I'm just warning you from what I know from the past. So I would be extremely disappointed in this board, and you may not care, but I don't think it's doing the right thing for the town to get back into this. And that's all I have to say. I mean, I could say it a million different ways, but it would be a mistake. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cheryl. Marc?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Marc Morgan. I'm a division manager for North Country Environmental Services, the North Country landfill. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about an expansion. I know it's a topic that's come up. Myself, John Casella, Regional VP Simon Tripp, Mike Bruno, and Mary Moritz, we all sat down and talked about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think John's comment in that meeting was just an openness to the conversation.
Can I correct one thing? The intent of that meeting was not to discuss an expansion, but quarterly meetings that we get together to discuss
Absolutely.
Closure.
Yep, but that was a comment made in that meeting.
Yeah.
So, just correct. I'm just
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. I didn't want
Sure.
there to be a misconception.
So at this time, Casella has a permit application with DES for GSL. We all know that. Our schedule, as has been mentioned in the past, is one of capping and closure. We're currently capping and closing portions of the landfill here in Bethlehem. As far as a plan for expansion, from our perspective, we've not heard from town officials to discuss that option, so we've not had that conversation. There certainly is available capacity on Trudeau Road. However, current local ordinances restrict that development. Until we hear differently from the town, the NCES facility will close and all associated services provided by Casella to Bethlehem residents will discontinue in 2027. That's the timeline that we've created, and that's what we're working with. Again, until we hear differently, that's the path we're on.
He is a resident.
I'm Wilson.
Yeah. So, just hold on for a second.
So please, speak on behalf as a resident, not as a resident.
All right, Marc Morgan, Trudeau Road. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Roby.
Dick Roby, still on Strawberry Hill. And some things that I've heard here tonight got me up here. We want to make sure that Bethlehem people vote. I think I could go to Littleton Hospital and come back with my birth records. That the day I was born, the next day my mother brought me to Bethlehem, New Hampshire. I moved here 80 years ago, so I think I qualify to be a resident. I commend Richard I've been to a lot of meetings with him, and Richard is concerned about Bethlehem. Anybody's gone to a meeting with him. You might not like what he says, but he's concerned about Bethlehem, and he's concerned about his taxes. And I've heard taxes mentioned here tonight by several. We're all concerned about our taxes. And it's just going to start the same thing. Again, we're going to hear on Zoom that I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think the selectmen are thinking when they do whatever they do, if they don't do it the way that they're being asked to. I only have one vote when I go to vote. But I'm going to join with Richard, and I'm going to, if it comes to a vote, I'm going to vote to try to look out for Bethlehem. Now, if there's several opinions about how to look out for Bethlehem, that's fine. But don't tell me that my vote here is forever. It cannot be forever. The first town meeting we ever had could not set the rules forever. Because a lot of people since then, and we've all known some of them have their own ideas about the landfill, and it's not set in stone that any vote, not to me it isn't. Anytime we vote, that's it forever. So you can hear your threats on Zoom or hear them here in this room, but use your own mind and see if we can't help Bethlehem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, Rich Southwell, 238 Whitefield Road. Not only am I not in favor of opening the door, I'm in favor of closing the door and locking it forever. You may have picked up on that. This idea that the board somehow can override an existing past warrant article would be a huge disservice to the town. And even an innocent letter to just start this, start the process, to have a conversation would be way out of line. I think it'd be a huge disservice to the town and all the numerous votes that Andrea outlined earlier. And so I would ask that you decline to send that letter. And if somebody wants to put a warrant article on in March to go in a different direction, then that's a vote for everybody. But I don't think the board needs to aid and abet in that. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
So I guess I followed Rich last time we went to a meeting. I appreciate his comments because one, I think when Nancy, as the chair of the select board, put this on the agenda, not only is she the chair of the select board, but she is a very dedicated member of the transfer committee, working diligently for a number of years to have an alternative plan so we meet that statutory obligation for municipal waste. When Mr. Ubaldo, when Rich came in and made his points, I think her intent was we have a resident who's bringing something up, and it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you stated, it's not up to the board to decide. Now, every year that I've been here, and I'll tell you, I'm going to share one of my first experiences at my very first town meeting about 18 years ago. when I walked in that door, never having been in here, and when I walked in and registered and I wanted to sit, I think on this side, the person I walked in with said, you can't sit over there, you have to sit on this side. My comment was, does it matter if I'm with the bride or the groom? I'm at the wedding. It doesn't matter. Now I made that comment in jest, but the purpose of it was, at that very moment, I realized the divisiveness of this issue. Every year since then, when members of the select board run for office and they have a candidates night, that is a question. I was a moderator for one of them. That was a question that was brought up. What is your position on the landfill? Nancy and I ran unopposed. We didn't have a candidates night. No one asked us that question. But I will tell you that I see both sides' position, and that is the hardest thing to do, is when you understand and you have empathy for both sides and you feel it. I look at this and say, I cannot support the board moving forward on any action because, one, I'm not a lawyer and I think there's a legal agreement in place. And because of that legal agreement, any action we took, I think we could be overreaching our ability to do something. But the legislative body, the residents of this community, have that ability to do a petition warrant article. And I think that if the people want that, that's when their chances are to move forward with it and have a vote. But I will not support the board acting to move forward on anything. I think if the citizens want it, they should petition warrant article it and then let the people speak. But we do, there's 5 of us up here, and it is a I'll say 50-50 just for easy math from my simple mind. But it is such a divisive issue that 5 of us cannot make a decision for a population of 2,600 people. We just can't. It wouldn't be right. And if someone was to move forward with a petition warrant article, that's their right to do it. But I will not support a board moving forward with any action. That's all I have.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with Mike said. Rich and Andrea, I think nailed it. The town has spoken on this more than once in the past, and it's a legally binding agreement. I mean, I know, same thing, I ran unopposed. I wrote in my letter to the editor that I acknowledge, hey, the town has voted on this, and they said no. And I fully support it. If somebody wants to write petition warrant article, absolutely. I fully support that, but I don't think it's the position of the board to take action.
Okay. I do think it was important to bring this up. And
I thank you for bringing it up. I think it's fair to Rich that you did.
It is fair to Rich, and he didn't come just once, he came twice. For all we know, if we hadn't had this on the agenda, you would have been here again tonight. So I think it needs to be addressed. Mike said that so eloquently. There's nothing really more I can say that couldn't be said better than what Mike just said, and I agree 100% with Mike and Casey. I'm sorry? I'm looking.
Yes, Nancy?
Yes.
I would just like to say, all the years working under all the different select boards that had varying, opinions on the landfill. And I respected a lot of the selectmen on both sides. And I had my own opinions, but everybody, they made their decisions because they cared for Bethlehem. Every single one of them. I feel very strongly that we do not sit down and talk. I think we need to honor the settlement agreement. The town voted many times, and there needs to be an end. There needs to be that final vote where it ends. So I would be against sitting down.
She said she's against sitting down.
Okay. And our 5th board member, Andrea Knowles, like I said, is not available tonight, but we do have a quorum, and I think we could entertain a motion that the select board chooses not to open the door and open a discussion with Casella, recognizing that residents can always do a petition warrant article to create another townwide vote. on that issue, but the board motions.
That sounds like a great motion.
I'm being too wordy.
You lost me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait a second.
Just say that I'll motion that the board does not move forward with a letter for opening discussion.
No,
And,
second.
and Casey seconded it. Any more discussion? Okay, come on up.
Richard Ubaldo, Main Street. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys discussing it, bringing it up and talking about it. And that's great. And no matter what your decision, it's fair enough for you that you brought it up and talked about it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Regardless, thank you for coming.
Chris?
Did just.
We haven't voted yet.
Okay.
No.
No, okay.
I'd just like to tag on to Rich Southwell's comments from the last couple of meetings in which he was talking about, I think, long-term concerns about environmental impacts. And to not put the Wayback Machine on too much, but a decade or more ago, there were a lot of concerns about long-term environmental impacts at the landfill. And people said, oh, well, you know, if it all goes bad out there, Casella is going to cut NCES loose. They're going to say, they're a separate entity. It is not our responsibility. And you guys are sort of environmental orphans. You're going to have to clean up that mess on your own. I found it interesting back in, I think, 2017 or 2018, when the Conservation Law Foundation sued Casella and NCES, alleging that they were polluting basically the Amanuensis. And one of the things that happened in federal court is that Casella went in and they said, you know, NCES is really different than, you know, your problem is with NCES, and that's not really Casella Corporation. And I think that sort of supports
remember. There's some people, John Swan being one of them, that is talking about DES not following the permit and the amount of tonnage. And I would just like to appeal to the board to check into that further to see if that's accurate. And if it is accurate, that writing a letter to DES seems appropriate from the board, because if they're not following the permit, then they're not following our agreement, our legal agreement either, because that was all spelled out, I believe. That's all.
Thanks, Andrea. My last comment was that I think Mr. Roby made a very good point that the people that are here, you're here because you care about Bethlehem. Every person, no matter what your feelings are about the landfill or anything. And I took that part, and I always appreciate hearing from people, especially people I don't agree with, because that's how you learn, you know, what sentiments are out there. It's easy to know what people think that think like you do, but it's important to hear what people think that don't think like you do. And I appreciate the fact that all of you were here, and I believe all of you care about this town. I know the Selectboard does, and you know, this is a tough issue, but thanks for everybody for being respectful and so forth. Are we ready to move on?
I just want to thank the board for doing this, because you guys have kicked the can down the road. You know, it's a controversial issue, but instead you brought it to the agenda. And I appreciate that, because for someone who likes to have the smaller side of things, I appreciate you having time for us.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And I'm here to everyone in short. I'm not here to care about that.
Okay, dovetailing a little bit on the issue of landfill. We have a draft of a letter. Where did I put it? Hold on. Oh yeah, there it is. That we had asked Mary to draft up a letter back in the September. Oh, I wrote it down.
Last meeting.
No, it wasn't the last meeting.
No, it was September.
Way back in September.
Yeah.
Wow.
September 22nd, I believe. It's if you want care to look at that, those minutes or the recording, writing a letter to Kelly Ayotte and David Rochfort, and we have the letter was only sent out this afternoon. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, and I'm going to read it hopefully very quickly, and then hopefully we can vote on whether we want to send this letter. Dear Governor Ayotte and Senator Rochfort, on behalf of the Bethlehem Select Board, we write to formally express our strong support for Governor Ayotte's proposed moratorium on the issuance of new landfill permits in New Hampshire until several critical statewide issues are thoroughly addressed. As a community with firsthand experience managing the long-term impacts of solid waste facilities, we recognize the gravity and complexity of landfill siting and oversight. We believe a pause is both prudent and necessary to ensure public health, environmental protection, and fiscal responsibility for future generations. We respectfully urge action on the following key concerns during the moratorium period. 1, creation of a site evaluation committee. We support the establishment of a multidisciplinary site evaluation committee to provide a more comprehensive, transparent, and accountable review process for landfill proposals. Such a body would help ensure that environmental, hydrological, geological, and community impacts are rigorously considered before any permit decisions are granted. Number 2, assessment of future PFAS remediation costs. Municipalities across New Hampshire are already facing mounting concerns related to PFAS contamination. It is essential that the state determine how future remediation costs will be managed and funded before allowing additional landfill capacity. Without proactive planning, these burdens will inevitably fall upon local taxpayers. Number 3, limits on out-of-state waste. New Hampshire must examine and clearly establish limits on the volume of out-of-state waste being disposed within our borders. Our state should not become a regional dumping ground at the expense of our natural resources and rural communities. Furthermore, the Select Board adamantly opposes any proposal that would remove or diminish local control from municipal land use boards. Local boards, planning, zoning, conservation, and select boards are best positioned to understand the unique environmental, economic, and social impacts landfill facilities have on their communities. Preserving local authority is foundational to New Hampshire's long-standing tradition of self-governance and community stewardship. We appreciate the governor's leadership in bringing attention to these pressing issues and Senator Rochfort's continued advocacy for responsible environmental policy. Bethlehem stands ready to participate in future legislative and regulatory efforts to modernize and strengthen New Hampshire's waste management framework. Thank you for your attention to this matter and your commitment to protecting New Hampshire's communities and natural resources. So that is a letter that we are proposing to send. Comments?
That's pretty good. I'm glad that under the site evaluation committee it says multidisciplinary, because we've seen with Northern Pass, I don't know if it was the governor's appointment or the executive council, but they would stack the SEC to that industry, and hopefully that doesn't happen if they move forward with something like this, and it is truly multidisciplinary.
I think it was Governor Ayotte's idea to create the site evaluation committee. I think it was. And then it kind of seemed like it almost was going away. So we did want to express support for that. Any other comments? I'll make a motion that we... Oh, I'm sorry.
Repeat customer, Rich Southwell, 238 Whitefield. The financial element, point number 2 of that, is absolutely critical.
The remediation cost?
Yeah, and making sure that that is bonded up front. Now, so we've been through this at least twice nationally with asbestos, and then also with PCBs in the 80s that led to Superfund. Now we have something, we were assured that everything was safe, everything was well managed, perfectly engineered, nothing could possibly go wrong, and yet we now have PFAS, aka forever chemicals. And so we didn't see everything that was on the horizon, and now it's coming up closer to us. And I think, while we don't have the ability to do that, we should be very firm with our state legislatures on this, that you're going to expand, you're going to build something new, you're going to put up a whole lot of money up front to make sure that we don't get left holding the bag. And Chris Jensen's earlier recounting of, you know, how the corporate entities shift around, and it's like, oh, well, that's their problem and they don't have any money, so I guess you're out of luck. That could absolutely happen here. And it sounds like, you know, it was attempted in the past. So that to me, other than, I mean, they're all three important points, but making sure that we're covered, any community is covered up front before one of these things goes in or gets expanded is absolutely essential. Thank you.
I urge everyone to continue watching what's happening in New Hampshire.
And they've seen our elected representatives accept emails.
Yeah.
So anyone can email them, send a letter.
That's true. Anyone can email.
Motions.
Yeah, you have a motion?
I don't know if you were just going to do.
What? Make a motion. Do I make a motion?
No.
I'll make a motion to send a letter to Governor Ayotte and David Rochford as stated.
I'll second that.
Casey seconded it. April, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Next is